This is a true story from an online post about a 29-year-old homeowner in 2020 who faced off against his HOA president, Linda, during the pandemic. After refusing to join the HOA, he stockpiled toilet paper, sanitizer, and disinfectant, sparking envy among neighbors. Linda demanded he share his supplies, but he refused. She later broke into his home, stealing his stock with her kids' help, only to be caught by police. Linda was jailed, lost her HOA position, and her family. A year later, he saw her working a low-wage job, a fitting end to her reign. And here is the detailed story. A few months later, I got a letter in the mail, no return address, just my name scrawled in angry, jagged handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed and unsigned, but I knew who it was from. "You ruined my life," it read. "My family, my reputation, my home. You think you're untouchable, but you're not. Watch your back." I stared at it for a long time, my pulse ticking up. Was this Linda? Someone else from her HOA posse? I called Tom, who was as shaken as I was. "She's out of jail," he said. "Move to that city you saw her in. I don't think she'd do anything, but, be careful." I upgraded my security system, more cameras, motion sensors, the works. I wasn't taking chances. The neighborhood felt different now, like a storm was brewing. Greg and his buddies still shot me dirty looks, and I heard whispers that some of Linda's loyalists were trying to honor her legacy by pushing for stricter HOA rules. Steve, the new president, was fighting to keep things calm, but I could tell he was overwhelmed. One night, I woke up to a crash outside. Heart pounding, I grabbed my phone and checked the cameras. A trash can was tipped over, and a figure was sprinting down the street. Too dark to make out details, but the spandex and hockey mask were unmistakable. My blood ran cold. I called the cops, but by the time they arrived, the figure was long gone. "Probably kids pulling a prank," the officer said, but I wasn't so sure. The next morning, I found a note taped to my mailbox. Same jagged handwriting. "You can't hide forever." I filed a police report, but without proof it was Linda, they couldn't do much. Tom came over, his face pale. "She called the kids last week," he said. "Said she was fixing things. I don't know what she's planning, but I'm scared for you." I tried to laugh it off, but my gut was screaming that this wasn't over. Weeks passed, and the incidents piled up. A slashed tire. Spray paint on my garage door, nothing too damaging, but enough to keep me on edge. I started working from home full-time, keeping an eye on the cameras like a hawk. Mike offered to crash at my place for a while, but I didn't want to drag him into this. Then, one stormy night, the power went out. My cameras were down, and the house was pitch black. I grabbed a flashlight and a baseball bat, every creak of the floorboards making my heart race. That's when I heard it, a faint scratching at the back door. I crept closer, bat raised, and saw the doorknob jiggle. "Who's there?" I shouted, my voice steadier than I felt. No answer, just more scratching. I flung the door open, ready to swing, but no one was there. Just a single roll of toilet paper on the doorstep, soaked from the rain, with a note pinned to it, "You'll pay." I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I hired a private investigator. "I need to know if she's behind this," I told him, handing over the notes. He dug into Linda's life, parole records, employment history, even tracked her social media. Turns out, she'd been posting cryptic rants about injustice and taking back what's mine. Nothing concrete enough to arrest her, but enough to convince me she wasn't done with me. The PI suggested I confront her, record the conversation, and try to get a confession. Against my better judgment, I drove to the supermarket where she worked. She was at the same register, bagging groceries with that same scowl. I waited until her shift ended and followed her to the parking lot. "Linda," I called out, my phone recording in my pocket. She froze, then turned, her eyes blazing. What do you want? She snarled. I know you're behind the notes, the vandalism, everything, I said. Stop, or I'll make sure you go back to jail. Her laugh was bitter, unhinged. You think you're so smart, don't you? You took everything from me. My family, my power, my life. You deserve what's coming. That was enough. I sent the recording to the police, who picked her up the next day for violating parole. She's back in jail now, facing new charges. The neighborhood's quieter now, but the scars remain. Tom and I are closer than ever, he's dating someone new, and his kids are thriving. The HOA's a shadow of its former self, with Steve pushing for reforms. I still have half my stockpile, a reminder of the chaos that started it all. Sometimes, late at night, I check the cameras, half expecting to see that hockey mask again. But for now, the storm's passed. And I'm still standing. This all went down in mid-2020, at the peak of the pandemic panic when the world seemed to teeter on the edge of chaos. I'm a 29-year-old guy, single, and a homeowner. Back in 2019, I scored a sweet deal on a house from my uncle, who was ready to kick back and retire to his lakeside second home. The house was a steal, half its market value. I couldn't say no, even with the catch, the neighborhood had a homeowners association, HOA. My uncle, wise as ever, had opted out of it, and he warned me to do the same. It's optional, he said, but they'll try to strong-arm you. I shrugged it off. A bargain's a bargain. The ink was barely dry on the deed when I got my first visitor. I just moved in, boxes still stacked in the living room, when there was a sharp knock at the door. I opened it to find a woman in her late 50s, her graying blonde hair cropped short, her face caked with makeup that did little to hide the lines of a permanent scowl. She held a gift basket, cookies, a cheap bottle of wine, and a scented candle that screamed dollar store. Her smile was as fake as the flowers tucked into the basket. Welcome to the neighborhood, she chirped, introducing herself as Linda, the HOA president. Mind if I come in? I've got some forms for you to fill out. I wasn't born yesterday. My uncle had prepped me for this exact move. Linda was fishing to rope me into the HOA, just like she tried with every non-member in the neighborhood. I cut her off before she could launch into her spiel. Thanks for the basket, but I'm not joining the HOA. Her smile vanished like I'd slapped her. Excuse me, she said, her voice dripping with indignation. All new homeowners are required to join. It's in the community bylaws. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. That's a lie, and we both know it. I've done my homework. I'm not paying dues, fines, or anything else. Push me, and I'll have a lawyer on speed dial. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment, I thought she might hurl the basket at me. Instead, she hissed, "You're going to be a thorn in this neighborhood," sighed, and stormed off, vowing she'd be back. For a while, things were quiet, relatively. I expected a flood of fines in the mail, but all I got were passive-aggressive letters about my grass being a quarter-inch too tall, or my driveway needing a sweep. Big deal. Those were chores I'd do anyway. The real tension came from the neighbors. The HOA loyalists, Linda's little clique, made it crystal clear they didn't like me. "You're an outsider," one of them, a guy named Greg with a perpetually red face, told me at a mailbox run-in. "You'll never fit in unless you join." I shrugged. Fine by me. We're neighbors, not buddies. They didn't like that, but I wasn't here to win a popularity contest. Fast forward to early 2020. The pandemic hit, and the world lost its mind. A buddy of mine, Mike, tipped me off that people were panic buying toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and disinfectant like the apocalypse was coming. I'm a planner by nature, some might say paranoid, so I got ahead of the curve. I ordered online, 8 12-packs of toilet paper, a case of 20 hand sanitizer bottles, 3 boxes of latex gloves, 2 boxes of face masks, and 20 cans of Lysol. I had it all delivered with a signature required because I didn't trust anyone not to swipe my stuff off the porch. Paranoid? Maybe. Smart? Definitely. When the delivery truck rolled up, half the neighborhood was out on their lawns, eyeing the mountain of packages like hawks. I hauled it all inside, but not before Linda's cronies got a good look. Word spread faster than the virus. I wasn't done, though. Every time I hit a store and saw a stray 4-pack of toilet paper or some off-brand disinfectant, I grabbed it. My garage was starting to look like a Costco warehouse. I wasn't hoarding for myself, I knew friends and family might need help soon, and I was right. By March, store shelves were barren. People were fist-fighting over the last roll of Charmin. Meanwhile, I had enough supplies to last a year. Mike ran out of toilet paper and sanitizer, so I hooked him up with a couple of 4-packs and a bottle at my door. My cousin Sarah and her kids were in the same boat, so I sent them home with a care package. They were beyond grateful. But then the vultures came knocking. It started with Greg, the red-faced neighbor. "Heard you've got a stockpile," he said, standing on my porch like he owned it. "Sell me some toilet paper." I shook my head. "I'm only sharing with family and friends." "You made it clear we're not friends, so no dice." His face turned an even deeper shade of red. "You're a selfish jerk," he spat before stomping off. Others followed, some begging, some demanding, all getting the same answer. "You said I'm an outsider," I reminded them. "Why should I bail you out now?" They'd harass me from the sidewalk, yelling about community spirit, but I just closed the blinds and cranked my music. Then Linda showed up again. It was late afternoon, and I was grilling in the backyard when she marched up to my fence, her face twisted with righteous fury. "I've had complaints," she announced. "Neighbors are out of toilet paper, sanitizer, everything. You need to share your stock." I flipped a burger and didn't even look at her. "Not my problem." She planted her hands on her hips. "I'm not asking, I'm telling you. Set an example as a good neighbor." I laughed. "Good neighbor? You've been trying to bully me since I moved in." "I read your HOA bylaws online, Linda. Even if I was a member, which I'm not, you've got no authority to demand my stuff. Buzz off." She turned purple, screaming about how I'd regret this as she stormed away. I flipped another burger and thought, bring it on. I should have known she wasn't bluffing. A week later, I was at work, IT for a small company, mostly remote, but I had to go in that day, when my phone buzzed. My security cameras had picked up motion at the house. I pulled up the feed and nearly dropped my coffee. A figure in a black spandex suit and a hockey mask was prying open my back door with a crowbar. It looked like something out of a bad heist movie. I zoomed in, and the blonde hair poking out from under the mask gave her away. "Linda." I called 911, told my boss I had an emergency, and floored it home. By the time I got there, the cops were already cuffing her. The backyard was a mess, toilet paper rolls scattered like confetti, sanitizer bottles and Lysol cans stuffed into trash bags. Linda's 2 kids, teenagers who looked mortified, were standing by the fence, holding more bags. Apparently, she'd roped them into her grand theft toilet paper scheme. "You're a disgrace," she screamed at me as the cops led her to the cruiser. "This neighborhood deserves better." I just shook my head. "Tell it to the judge, Karen." I pressed charges. Breaking and entering, theft, property damage, the works. Linda got 6 months in jail and 2 years of probation. Her husband, Tom, called me the next day, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "I'm so sorry," he said. "This isn't the first time she's pulled something like this. I've been planning to divorce her for a while. CPS is involved now because of the kids. I'm going for full custody." I didn't know what to say, so I just wished him luck. The fallout was swift. Linda's reign as HOA president ended, and a quiet guy named Steve took over. He sent me a letter apologizing for the previous leadership's behavior and promised to leave me alone. The neighborhood gossip mill churned, some sided with Linda, calling me a hoarder, but most just wanted to move on. Tom stayed in the neighborhood, and we started talking more. He's a decent guy, stuck in a bad marriage for too long. One night, we cracked open a couple of beers, and he helped me replace the back door Linda had wrecked. She's always been obsessive, he told me. The HOA was her kingdom. You not joining? That was personal. I clinked my bottle against his. Here's to new beginnings. Life settled down after that. The pandemic raged on, but my stockpile held strong. I kept sharing with friends and family, and even slipped a few rolls to an elderly neighbor who wasn't part of the HOA drama. No one else knocked on my door demanding handouts. Linda's absence left a void in the neighborhood's power structure, and the HOA meetings, according to Tom, were a lot less hostile without her. Fast forward to April 2021. I was visiting Mike in a nearby city, grabbing groceries at a local supermarket, when I saw her. Linda, bagging groceries, her hair dyed a cheap auburn, her face bare of the makeup she used to cake on. She looked older, smaller, like the fight had been drained out of her. Our eyes met, and her scowl was instant. She turned away, bagging my canned goods with enough force to dent them. I didn't say a word, just paid and left. Karma's a hell of a thing. But the story doesn't end there.